Hello everyone, I'm Brahm Mithra. Alright, this is it. Everything is now real. People have been getting their gambler's chest. My camera is being weird right now. It's got some kind of, I don't know. People are getting their gambler's chest. I had everything all set up because I'm going to be live streaming gambler's chest. I'm going to make, first, here's what's going to happen when I get gambler's chest. I'm going to live stream an unboxing and sleeving. Meaning that it's going to be like a 4 to 5 hour live stream where I'm going to unbox and sleeve everything, and we're going to talk all about Gambler's Chest when I get it. Now, I don't have it yet, but a lot of people do. There are unboxings on YouTube. I think there's also some live streams. I know Twist Gaming did a live stream. So a lot of the stuff's out there. We're going to talk about some of it. And again, I apologize. I can see it right now. The camera's being a little bit wonky. Looks like the frame rate's a little low, but again, that's because I had everything set up for a live stream. I had to move all this back up and hook it all back up, and I must have messed it up. But anyway, let's talk about what has been revealed, all right? So there has been some things that have been revealed in all the Kingdom Death communities. I'm not going to talk about a lot of it, all right? So spoiler warning, we're going to talk about some of the Gambler's Chest stuff. I'm only going to talk about the systems of Gambler's Chest. Spoiler warning, all right? I am not going to show any images from cards. I'm not going to show philosophy stuff. I'm not going to show any of those things, right? We're just going to look at the rule book from the pages that have been shown and shared from the communities. So what this is going to be is we're going to call this a Gambler's Chest system first look, all right? Because I've read everything. I think I can grasp most of it, but without having like cards and looking at everything and being able to see examples, I might not be able to get everything 100%. But we're just going to look at the rule pages that have been shown. So spoilers. Again, I'm not showing any gear. I'm not showing any cards. I'm not showing anything else. Just the systems that we have all been wondering and the rules for those systems that we've all been looking for years for Gambler's Chest. All right? Spoiler warning. All right, there you go. You can give me spoilers. Now, back to what I'm going to be doing when I actually get my Gambler's Chest. So it's going to be a live stream. Going to do all that. Probably won't happen until after Gen Con now. So again, I will be at Gen Con. So you come talk to me and do whatever you want. I'll be walking around Gen Con. A lot of it probably at the Kingdom Death booth or whatever, but I'll have some stuff to give away. Just if you mention that you would like some tokens, I'll probably have I've made all the Survivee tokens that people wanted from the poll, so I have those tokens, and I've made some lightning ones as well. So we'll see how many I have. I'm going to see if I can make fist pump. So there might be, so the survivor tokens are just the ones that they're just the actions, survival actions that you have, and there's a new one called fist pump. So we'll see. So that's Gen Con, and then for the live stream, I'm going to do an unboxing, and then I'm going to be playing Gambler's Chest. Just live streaming the whole campaign. We're going to live stream the whole thing. We'll see how many live streams I do of Gambler's Chest. But as soon as I get it, that's what we'll be doing. Live streaming, just long, huge live streams of Gambler's Chest. So with that said, why I'm doing this now is because when we get to the unboxing and everything, at least now you'll have a primer video to kind of understand what you're looking at. Because I've noticed a lot of just pictures being posted and you have no context or even how they'll work or anything like that. So let's go ahead. Let's start looking at the pages that have been revealed from the rule book. So first and foremost, what we have here is, you can see this is the nodes page. So this says Kingdom Death monster campaigns vary wildly based on the monsters and optional components they contain. Their unique mix changes the story of every settlement dramatically. To support the staggering permutations of fate, each campaign has monster nodes and pillars that help create coherent stories from the many available components. So, monster nodes. Nodes are a simple way to identify the relative difficulty of a given monster. That's the thing here. They identify the relative difficulty, not necessarily when they show up. It's probably also a hint that they're probably going to show up later, the more difficult the monster is, right? But not always. You could technically, in theory, have a node 4 that shows up year 1, right? And then maybe it interacts with stuff and causes problems on hunts or something, or settlement events or something. So it's just how difficult the monster is, not necessarily when it shows up. So we have that confirmed now, and then they lay out what nodes look like. So your node 1 quarry monsters are your white lion, your gorm, and your crimson crocodile. The node 2 quarry, screaming antelope, spidicules, flower knight, which is a quarry, and then smog singers. Node 3 quarry, phoenix, dragon king, sunstalker. Node 4, dung beetle knight, which is interesting. Dung beetle knight is really difficult. Like the level 3, 2's like quite a spike, exponential. Dung beetle knight exponentially grows strong. So even though the first level might be kind of like maybe like node 3 level, the level 2 and the level 3 in the legendary monster are definitely deserving of node 4. They're way higher difficulty spikes than the year that you could engage with them. So node 4, Dung Beetle Knight, Lion God King. Then we have node 1 Nemesis, Butcher, and Manhunter. Now there's no rules in the Gambler's Chest for how to deal with Manhunter, but it is nice to see that it's a node 1 replacement. That would be great to be able to use Manhunter instead of Butcher. Node 2 Nemesis, Kingsman, Lion Knight, Slenderman, Atlas. Node 3 is the Hand. Core monsters, these are the ones that have campaigns specifically to them, are Watcher, Gambler, Dragon King, Sunstalker. And then your finale nodes are Goldsmoke Knight and Godhand. Now, I don't know if Godhand can be used outside of People of the Dreamkeeper. I don't think it can. I think this Godhand is tied to directly People of the Dreamkeeper, just like Goldsmoke Knight is directly tied to Lantern right now. Even though these other two exist, you can't really use Gold. I suppose you could just throw them in if you wanted to, but technically you're not supposed to. I don't even think you could throw them into here. But special Nemesis monster, Lonely Tree. So special fights probably aren't going away. Lonely Tree being special Nemesis. So then you have the campaign pillars. This doesn't really mean a whole bunch right now. So here's your pillars. Pillars can also include pillars, optional game components that increase immersion, complexity, and chaos. The Gambler's Chest expansion introduced numerous new components, each with a pillar value that represents the complexity it added to your game. Arc Survivors added 3 complexity. Encounters are 2, Scouts are a 1, Sea Patterns are a 1, Wanderers are a 1, and Characters are a 1. But the Gambler's Chest uses all of these. So, it's not like there's a limit on them. It's just you're just going to have super complex thing, I guess, but it doesn't seem that complex. Good news, this stuff doesn't seem like insanely complex. So then you have customized campaign. Again, I don't want to go through all these rules and stuff. Next, we have the Dreamkeeper. So, Advanced Kingdom Death rules. I'm not going to go over all these things. So, let's talk about Arc Survivors. Arc Survivors are quite... this is the new system, the new type of survivor for Gambler's Chest. Introduces them, but you can use them outside of Gambler's Chest. You could use them in anything you want. So, Arc Survivors awaken with their minds unshackled. 3 interconnected components represent their faculties. It's philosophy, knowledge, and collective cognition. Philosophies are the way Arc Survivors make sense of their experiences. When they come of age, Arc Survivors adapt a philosophy that guides how they grow and change in response to their nightmare existence. Knowledges are skills that can be learned and taught. Often they arise from insight gleaned from an Arc Survivor's philosophy. Arc Survivor's intellectual capacity allows these skills to evolve with experience and to benefit the settlement beyond one survivor's lifetime. And then collective cognition is the growing potential of a settlement that comes from neurological benefits of a diverse and nutritious diet. These 3 elements build to create unique experience for Arc Survivors. Collective cognition generates new philosophies, added knowledge, or Add new knowledge. Arc survivors are an optional component that can be added to any campaign. So there you go. Added to any campaign. There are also, has been revealed through images that have been shared. Again, these are all shared images that I've just compiled to talk about the systems because, again, I really want to treat this as a primer. So, for when we do the unboxing and everything, everyone can feel free to ask questions and we can look at gear. We can have a whole bunch of fun in the live stream. We can have all kinds of cool stuff happening because this will act as a primer so you at least understand what it is we're looking at. And then, obviously, when I get Gambler's Chest and I have the book in front of me, I'll explain way more. I just don't want to explain all that stuff in this video. I want to keep this as spoiler light as I can. This is basically just rules at this point that we're going to talk about. Adding Arc Survivors. You add first meal to Lantern Year 1 in the timeline. They are going to, I'm going to kind of go through this again. They're going to replace your romantic principle. The reasoning for this is the romantic conviction was associated with fighting arts. It needed to be changed subtly in order to, better gel with Arc Survivors. Same with Sculpture, because Sculpture is going to do fighting arts. So, and then you replace one basic hunt event card with an Arc Survivor hunt event in the basic hunt event deck. So what this means is there's 8 or 10, I forget exactly how many basic hunt event cards. Now you're just replacing the basic hunt event card. Basic hunt events are the deck. A basic hunt event card is the basic hunt event card that shows the hand holding 2 dice. That's a basic hunt event card. The basic hunt event deck can be filled with basic hunt events. So that means you're adding just this. You're removing one of the random ones that look from the table of 100 and adding in an Arc Survivor one. So then you'll have 7 in 1, then plus all your other ones that you could get from white boxes and things. Those are not replaced. They're just in the deck, but they are not basic hunt event cards. They're basic hunt events, but they're a different card. The Arc Survivor hunt event base replace murder. This is philosophy tied, because there is a murder philosophy, and Skull Eater with Skull. So both new settlements are going to be tied to those philosophy. That's why that's being done. And then you use a new intimacy instead of regular intimacy. This is because of, being born, technically be born as saviors and things. So that's not going to be a thing for, it's just like the, what is it? It's just like using the, a different intimacy table in the sun and stars. However, this removes the, possibility to even get saviors, which is interesting because you could use Arc Survivors in Lantern and then you would use this intimacy. So interesting. There's probably other ways of get saviors in Lantern, but current campaign, Arc Survivors introduce significant changes to your settlement gameplay. They cannot be added mid-campaign. See, cannot add it mid-campaign. People of the Druid Keeper. Only Arc Survivors live in the Gambler's Settlement. It's good knowing for lore. People of the Dreamkeeper campaign uses many new components of the Gambler's expansion, including Arc Survivors. So you're only going to be able to use Arc Survivors and People of the Dreamkeeper. Arc Survivors are different. The lives of Arc Survivors are packed with new aptitudes and their different consequences. So Arc Survivors do not age like other survivors. Instead, Instead, their development is shaped by their philosophies. These newfound freedoms and stresses are represented by new abilities. What this just basically means is it's just saying that they're not going to use fighting arts. They're just different. Systemic pressure. This is a new thing for a new stat. A manifestation of physical stress that accumulates when survivors make a severe injury roll. Subtract their systemic pressure from the roll result. So it was also mentioned in other pages, going forward, unless something says you gain a token, it's going to adjust your permanent attributes. So if something says gain 1 systemic pressure, right? It's not talking about you gaining a token. You're going to gain that attribute permanently. And this is a permanent way to be more susceptible to severe injuries. So remember, you're not getting a token. Torment, a manifestation of ongoing mental strain that accumulates. When survivors make a brain trauma roll, subtract their torment from the roll result. Torment and systemic pressure are cumulative like other attributes. If a survivor has 1 torment and then gains +1 torment, they then have 2 torment. Arc Survivors' knowledges and neuroses can also persistently alter these attributes. If they are removed, their effects on torment and systemic pressure are also removed. Lumi. Lumi is the spark of curiosity that proliferates knowledge. Lumi is acquired and spent like survival. Doesn't mean it can be spent as survival, but it can be spent like survival. Meaning, I guess if you have the opportunity to spend it to do a survival action, you could do it to do that. And you could spend Lumi. You need that ability to do so, but you could. Arc survivors age differently. Philosophies replace the age story event that other survivors triggers as they develop. This is super cool. This changes completely, makes each survivor completely unique. Unlike with, not that age doesn't, but age happens to all survivors. It's uniform. It's uniform profession or progressive scaling, whereas this is non-uniform because you're going to have each person could have a different philosophy they're pursuing. Arc survivors and weapon proficiency. Arc survivors do not choose weapon proficiency as a result of the age story event. Instead, weapon proficiencies result from collective cognition rewards. Specifically, the butchery is where you get that from, but we'll talk about it. The forum settlement location. As collective cognition decreases, Arc survivors earn a forum location in their settlement. Forum is dedicated knowledge. At the forum, survivors learn to share knowledges and help others along their philosophical journeys. So here we go. Here's philosophies. Philosophy cards represent a philosophy survivors can adopt. We were just talking about that. They have a name type and direct your survivor how they to adopt this philosophy. So you're going to have a core, starting, a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and systemic. This is done like ways to curate the deck or, seed the deck so as you progress, like more powerful as you get out and stuff. Philosophy deck contains cards that represent all philosophies arc survivors of a settlement can adopt. At the beginning of a campaign, the deck is small. When a philosophy is required, it is added to the deck for survivors to gain. If a philosophy card is removed from the deck, that outlook is no longer possible to adopt in the settlement. There are 6 types of philosophies represented: core, starting, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. So again, we'll talk into that. This is where you create the philosophy deck. You're going to use 1 core philosophy, 1 starting philosophy, and then 2 random tier 1 philosophies. So that's how you make it. It's kind of like building an innovation deck. That's how you're going to start. In the Dreamkeeper campaign, this will be 4 cards. Survivalism will be your starting philosophy. Dreamism will be your core philosophy. And 2 random tier 1 philosophies. So every campaign with a core node is probably going to get their own specific core philosophy, which is Dreamism, because it's attached to the Dreamkeeper. Starting philosophy is probably always going to be the same, but there might be different ones, but it's always usually going to be Survivalism. I don't know if there's a second one in there, starting philosophy. Again, I don't want to spoil all of it, but adopting a philosophy. During the development step of a settlement phase, ARC survivors who have reached their first Hunt XP milestone, so that's just as normal, adopt a philosophy. Although some ARC survivors reach this milestone, in the aftermath of a showdown, they adopt philosophies only during quiet moments of reflection in the settlement. That's a direct reference to weapon proficiency and stuff. Weapon proficiency works when you hit age 2, you get that proficiency like that right away, regardless of where you are. If you're on the hunt, during the aftermath, literally doing the rewards before even gaining proficiency, you can trigger age, get your thing, and then gain a proficiency rank. This specifically gives a timing for it within the settlement phase when you ponder. When ARC survivors adopt philosophy, get the corresponding philosophy book and open to the starting page. Philosophy books, I don't know if I want to go into too much of this because I'll have to be able to give examples while I'm doing the live stream and stuff. But philosophies are critical to ARC survivors' identity and will influence their behavior and development. At the outset, philosophy books describe the fundamental ways in which philosophies guide their behavior. Hunt XP milestones are the pace at which the worldview developed. Each philosophy has its own Hunt XP milestone that will indicate when its ranks increase. This is also shown on the survivor record sheet. Instead of being age, we'll say like rank up. So, tenant knowledge is essential to any worldview. When you adopt a philosophy, take the corresponding knowledge card and record the tenant's name, rules, observation conditions, and the quality and the quantity of observation boxes on your record sheet. So again, we're just talking about the record sheets are more substantive for ARC survivors. Every outlook has its pitfalls. This is for the neuroses. Or neurosis. Where is it? Record and then rules. So you're gonna get a tenant, and you're gonna get two. So you basically get two things when you get knowledge. You put those down. It's like a disorder. It's like an ability. Yeah. Again, without having examples. Again, we'll get into it when I unbox it. Then I'll go through all the rules again. We'll better explain it. We'll talk during that whole thing while I'm sleeving cards and building monsters. Because remember, I got to build Croc before we can even start. Got to build Smog. Butcher and Phoenix I already have. So that at least gives us some time. We'll be able to get to Atnus once I just need to make Croc and Smog. And then we'll be able to get started. Probably won't be able to paint them right away. I probably won't start painting them till maybe in between live streams. Because I can't just go nonstop. But... so again, without really getting into this, I don't want to go into this too much, but basically Ark survivors use philosophies. They're not going to be using age and stuff. It's really neat, interesting system. Where is it? So here's where they ponder, right? Returning survivors who reach the new Hunt XP milestone must ponder their philosophy. They do so at any point during the development step. When they do, they gain the new rank of their philosophy. Turn to the ranks page in the philosophy book and have another player read the story aloud. If prompted, roll and then record the results. A survivor can increase their philosophy rank only once per settlement phase. This is interesting because you could technically get new philosophies, gain new knowledge, start down new paths, and you'll already have the Lumi and the CC to go and advance really far in the ranks because maybe it happened when you were already like a rank 3 survivor, Ark survivor or something. But even when that happens, you still can only advance your rank once per thing. And you still need to wait to ponder. So let's say that happens on the hunt, where you change your philosophy. You don't get anything to start with it, right? You don't get any way of doing it till you get back to the settlement to ponder. Even if you happen to be a really, a really experienced Ark survivor, I don't want to say like age or wisdom like, wise Ark survivor, if that were to happen, and maybe it can, if that were to happen, you would still have to wait to go back and ponder and even start down, unless it says gain your tenant and stuff. Hunt XP to achieve more than one. Oh yeah, so it says it right here. Survivors who gain enough Hunt XP to achieve more than one XP Hunt milestone only gain the next rank of their philosophy. They must wait until the next settlement phase of ponder and gain another rank. So even if you already have it, see. Keep the settlement's total collective cognition in mind when you have earned them. Collective cognition benefits your roll results and introspection. Where is it? Oh yeah, once per life. Survivors gain the benefits of each rank in their philosophy once per lifetime. Knowledges. Knowledges are techniques for showdown, hunt, and settlement phases. Unlike fighting arts, knowledges can evolve with careful observation from a hazy idea into a powerful weapon. Survivors learn knowledges from their philosophies at the Forum settlement location in the Ark settlement. Rules for each knowledge card are found in the corresponding knowledge card. Knowledge cards can be gained from the knowledge deck, the Forum, or added from the game box. Knowledge cards. This explains it. Again, the most important things here is this number 2, Lumi cost. Again, this was the thing I was talking about that acts like survival and can be spent like survival or spent like insanity. It's just a cumulative number that you add to. But you're going to need that in order to... So say you go back to... Yeah, so I'll keep reading. Knowledge can be gained at the Forum settlement location for Lumi cost. So you need to be... During the settlement phase, if you want to rank up your knowledge, you need to spend that Lumi. Knowledge card, keyword, card art, rules, observation conditions. Knowledge cards can improve with mindful practice. This is number 6 down here. The observation with that little eye. Observation boxes indicate how many times survivors must make an observation before knowledge can level up. This we've already seen in white boxes, kind of with those evolving fighting arts. It's kind of the same exact thing. It's just better wording, and it's just it's more better. It's better done better. Level up, again, talked about all this. Epiphany, a novel discovery. The survivor gains a new... This is at the bottom, the last one. So this would be when you have Tenacity 1, you have the Epiphany, you advance to Tenacity 2. A novel discovery, the survivor gains a new knowledge that does not replace the old knowledge. It is possible for the survivor to replace the knowledge that gave birth to the Epiphany if all their knowledge slots are full. However, the old knowledge remains in the settlement's knowledge deck. Recording knowledge. When a survivor gains a knowledge, they record its name, including its level if it has one, rules, observation conditions, and the number of observational boxes on their ARC Survivor record sheet. ARC survivors have 3 knowledge slots, 1 slot for their tenant knowledge and 2 slots for any other knowledges. So it's kind of like having a limit of 3, just like with fighting arts. Using knowledge. Survivors must often use their knowledge during showdowns. The rules on knowledges describe how and when to use them and existing limits. Knowledge with a theory. Some knowledge begins with an inkling of an idea too hazy to have an effect. Survivors must make enough observations to replace this knowledge with the next rank to benefit from their careful observations. You need to keep excelling. Like you need to keep observing all this stuff to rank them up. Knowledge with attributes. Some knowledges give survivors positive or negative attributes. Apply these effects to the survivor's attributes as long as they possess the knowledge. When this knowledge is removed or cannot be used, the attribute modifier no longer applies. Currently, there are things like Harvestman for fighting arts and stuff like this. This is basically that, right? So if you lose a fighting art, you lose those attributes. It's the same here. Knowledge deck. The knowledge deck grows and shrinks as survivors obtain dizzying new heights of enlightenment. Starting knowledge deck. During the prologue, you will build your initial knowledge deck of 4 knowledge cards with the starting keyword. We talked about this already. So the Gambler's Chest expansion contains 4 starting knowledges. Darkness 1, Despair 1, Fear 1, and Hunger 1. You will get 2 of those starting. Gaining knowledge. For ARC survivors, the consequences of gaining knowledge are profound. They are uniquely capable of transmitting and preserving knowledge. When one survivor makes strides, the whole settlement benefits. These benefits endure beyond the lifetime of the survivor who uncovers them. When a survivor gains knowledge, example, tenants of their facilities, blah, 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 they gain the highest level of that knowledge known in the settlement. What that means is there could be other survivors who have gone down this philosophy before. They've added other ranks of that similar thing to there. So the new person would gain the highest level of that knowledge that is known in the settlement. Check the knowledge section of the ARC Survivor record sheet to confirm the highest level of this knowledge. That knowledge section represents the sum of what is known in the settlement. If a survivor gained new knowledge from an observation or an in-game event, the whole settlement benefits from the discovery. If the knowledge gained is new to the settlement, record it in the appropriate place on the ARC Survivor record sheet. Add its name and level to the knowledge section of the ARC settlement record sheet. Finally, add the card to the knowledge deck. There are ways to gain just knowledge cards. Say, just like you could gain fighting arts and make a deck. Not all knowledge cards come from philosophies. So there's other ways to get knowledge into the deck. Existing knowledge. When a survivor gains knowledge that is already known in the settlement, they gain the highest level any survivor has ever known, right? So that doesn't mean that the person needs to be alive to still have it, right? That's kind of like what happens with, like if you lose a mastery innovation and the master's dead, then like you can't recreate it. So that's not the same here. Regardless if they're alive or dead, if the survivalment's ever known it, you're good to go. Check the knowledge section of the campaign's ARC Settlement record sheet. If the survivor gains a knowledge that has a higher level than the knowledge of the same name known in the settlement, the lower level is now obsolete. The higher level knowledge card replaces the obsolete knowledge in the knowledge deck. Archive the obsolete knowledge. Update the knowledge section to reflect this progress. So again, this would be happening when you're pondering and stuff. Possibly. Could be other ways too. If a survivor gained knowledge that is a lower level than what is already known in the settlement, they benefit from others' experience. They gain the highest level of that knowledge known in the settlement. Do not add the lower level knowledge back to the knowledge deck. For example, Lucy advances Tenacity 1 to Tenacity 2. However, Tenacity 3 is already known in the settlement. Lucy gains Tenacity 3. Neat. This is awesome. Again, these systems seem really cool, and we're only on ARC survivors. We're going to get to all of them. If a survivor gained knowledge that is the same level of one I already know, nothing happens. So, Random knowledge. When survivors gain random knowledge, as I was talking about, there's other ways of getting it via, just whatever. Story events. There's other ways of getting knowledge. Shuffle the knowledge deck and draw from the top. Oh, well, this says when you gain random. But you could gain knowledge that gets added to the deck randomly throughout the game. If a survivor has 3 knowledges and gain a new one, they must choose to replace any but their tenant. Right? You can never replace that. You need to lose the philosophy entirely to replace that. This is the same with fighting arts. So fighting arts are, you have the 3 and you must replace. This is the same. If you get a third one, you must replace, and that replacement can't be the tenant. So, tenant knowledge. While a survivor has their philosophy, the philosophy's tenant knowledge is permanent. See, I should just keep reading. For everyone else in the settlement, the survivor's tenant knowledge is the same as other knowledges. It is in the knowledge deck unless it is obsolete. It is possible for a survivor to already have the knowledge that becomes their tenant knowledge. When this happens, simply move all of its information, including observations, into the tenant knowledge slot. So, there you go. Right. As we were just talking about with the fighting arts that must be replaced, if you gain a tenant, you must gain it. And then if it does replace the other one, you must move it. So, that's how that works. Gaining fighting arts. Fighting arts are impulses that ARC survivors do not have. Attempting to learn them puts their minds under immense stress. When fighting arts would be gained, ARC survivors do a story event vaultless. Through this story, ARC survivors may gain fighting arts. ARC survivors can possess 1 fighting art and 1 secret fighting art. So they are limited to 1 of each. Losing access to knowledge. If ARC survivors cannot use their fighting arts, they also cannot use their knowledge. Right? This is in reference to Doomed and Frenzy, stuff like that. Right? If some older event says you cannot use fighting arts, you cannot use knowledge. For example, in ARC survivors for ruptured muscle, permanent injury. If they cannot use knowledges, they cannot accumulate observations. That is huge to know. So even if you can't use it, say you're frenzied or whatever, you're doomed, and something would trigger your knowledge or observation. Something would trigger that. Say it was like take damage someplace, and you're doomed, and you took damage. You would not gain the observation. It's key to know. This includes tenant knowledges. However, survivors are always beholden to their neurosis. So that is not blanked by being doomed, as far as I know. Maybe clarification, but knowledge level ups. Players keep their knowledge observations. Again, we'll talk about all these things. This is hard to show without examples, but it's better to just show it when you have it. There's the knowledge of the forum. ARC survivors share knowledge. During the step of settlement phase, shuffle the knowledge deck and draw 3 cards, placing them next to the forum settlement location. So this is like the tableau. I don't know if it's actually in the game with chest or not. Again, I don't have mine yet, but there's supposed to be like a tableau, ARC Survivor tableau. Maybe that's this where these are the knowledges shared by survivors this lantern year, right? During the development step, a survivor can select a knowledge card, pay its Lumi cost, again, we've talked about Lumi cost, and gain it. Once gained, move the knowledge from the forum back to the knowledge deck. Nowhere here does it say replenish the card, right? So you're not like replenishing the slot. Survivors may spend Lumi at the forum to add more knowledge cards to the forum. So you have to spend it to refresh it. As collective cognition of the survivor settlement improves, and unlocks other benefits of vigorous discourse. Okay, well, we're done here. So collective cognition, next big system. It's all the same system. These are all ARC survivors. Again, why it was complexity 3. Collective cognition. Food is central in ARC survivor settlements. ARC survivors live to enrich their diets, and in return, their well-nourished brains can collectively achieve new heights of power and sophistication. This cultural growth is represented by collective cognition, CC. As the settlement reaches higher amounts of CC, they earn rewards. Survivors acquire collective cognition by defeating a mix of challenge monsters. More challenging monsters proffer greater collective cognitive gains. So you're finally rewarded and incentivized to hunt each level of each node, right? Or each quarry, however you want to say it. level 1, a level 2, and level 3. Sometimes people would never even fight level 2 lions. Sometimes people would never even fight level 2 lopes. You just fight the level 1 and level 3. Now you're actually incentivized. There's more incentive. We'll talk about more incentives too, like node-linked resources and stuff, but you want to make sure that you're actually fighting. This is a great change. You want to make sure you're actually fighting all levels of everything, and you want to get the most out of the nodes you're including, which is super cool. So gaining CC from quarry monsters. Quarry monsters stalking the darkness offer a powerful incentive for hungry Ark survivors. Older, tougher monsters are a feast for ravenous Ark cells. If they defeat a monster, the victorious survivors return to the settlement with food and the potential for profound change. Victorious survivors gain CC in the aftermath of the showdown. Once the aftermath is resolved, update the settlement victories section on the Ark settlement record sheet. Next to the name of the defeated quarry, fill an unfilled box under its level. Update the total collective cognition above. If no box remains unfilled for that monster's level, the settlement gains no CC. Level 1 quarry monsters provide 1 CC for the first time they're defeated. Level 2 quarry monsters provide 2 CC for the first 2 times they are defeated. Level 3 quarry monsters provide 3 CC for the first 3 times they are defeated. Right there. There's your incentive. You don't want to spend a ton of time hunting level 1s. You want to push for level 2. This is such a great change to the game because you used to be able to just bridge the gap fighting level 1 monsters. I'm even guilty of this myself, right? Why fight the level 2 if you can ensure, like for the lope. The lope was the biggest offender of this because the hit location deck gave so many critical rewards for resources. You could just fight the level 1. If you couldn't take a level 3, you just fight the level 1. And then you're guaranteed to win, right? So why fight the level 2, really? Because the level 2 doesn't really add anything, where the level 3 would. So you just say, well, I'll fight the level 1, make sure I survive, put myself in a good position for a nemesis. Now you want to do the level 2s because you get double. It's literally double the CC. So, and you get it for the first 2 times they're defeated. It's great. And that's for each node too. So again, a white lion node 1 and an antelope node 2 would be able to give you 2 CC 4 times, right? Because you're defeating the twice for the white lion, twice for the node, or twice for the lope. So that's 4 level 2s worth of CC. That's so amazing. This is a great change for the game. Legendary monsters are I skipped one. Menacing forces invading the settlement do not provide the same kind of enrichment. They contribute to the collective cognition, 3 CC, only the first time each level is defeated. Defeating the same level nemesis multiple times does not generate additional CC. Again, this would be done via Heart Flute. Legendary monsters are singular experiences that are not standard quarry monsters. Settlement gains 3 CC after defeating one. Perfect. It's great. Collective cognition rewards. When a settlement eats well, its collective cognition increases. This can add new cultural benefits for Ark survivors, which are found on CC reward cards. CC reward cards are gained when the settlement reaches a specific amount of collective cognition. The back of each CC reward card has a number indicated of the collective cognition needed to gain the card. The front of each card contains the rules for gaining the reward, and it gives examples here. You can see the 2 in the card, and then that's the pleasing plating. And here you have the White Lion Cuisine, Quarry Monster CC rewards. Quarry Monster CC rewards, or Quarry Monster rewards have a collective cognition number corresponding to their node. Node 1 is 6, Node 2 is 16, Node 3 is 26, Node 4 is 36. The node represents the order these quarry monsters appear in the story of your campaign. Create the CC rewards deck. Organize CC rewards. Again, this is something that you're better off just being shown how to do it when I actually get it in play. Record CC, gaining CC. We talked about most of this. There can never be more than one card with the same collective cognition number in the deck. In cases where duplicates remain, you choose one. So it's worth noting. Food innovations. One reward of improving collective cognition is innovations of the preparation and culture of food. Yeah. The only way to gain these innovations is through achieving higher collective cognition. When they reach the principle of food innovation, supreme cuisine, they can endeavor to create meal gear. Not going to talk about meal gear, not going to show it. Again, better something for the live stream. Again, just use this video as like, so we're all well informed while I'm doing the unboxing, and I don't have to answer like rules questions whenever I show every single piece of gear. Again, I probably will have to, but you know, it's more so that we all have a greater understanding when I go to do the unboxing. Because unboxing and just showing stuff where it's like, here's this gear. What is that? I don't even know what that is. Yeah, I know, whatever. Next gear. Whoa. It's like, who cares? You don't know what it's doing. So, again, that's why I really wanted to do this. We'll have a greater understanding for the live streams. The Butchery and Arc Survivor weapon proficiency. Arc Survivors cannot select a weapon proficiency until they have gained the Butchery food innovation. Once earned, they may select their weapon proficiency when they depart for a hunt. Meal gear. Meal gear, we'll talk about meal gear. It's cool stuff. Now we're on to encounters. So there's Arc Survivors. So much stuff there. A lot. That's why they're probably a 3 on that pillar. Still, amazing. It seems like such a great system. A lot of that stuff was teased throughout. And I know, like, in a lot of, like, the Gambler's Chest hype videos and stuff, I always said, like, oh, man, I hope this really adds diversity to hunts. And it clearly does. So great. Let's talk about encounters. Something is hunting the survivors as they hunt their quarry. Encounters with these foes take place during the hunt phase. Encounters can ruin or enrich a hunt. The Gambler's Chest expansion includes the Bone Eater's Encounter Monster. Okay, Encounter Monster, so we're not going to talk about like the components. Add encounters, new campaign, and each we're doing, so they have an intro event. Add encounters to current campaign, add each introduction to the next Lantern Year. Again, adding Bone Eaters. Add the introduction story event Missing Statue to Lantern Year 3 on the settlement's timeline. So then, encounter hunt event cards. Replace basic hunt event cards, introducing the looming threat of an encounter showdown during the hunt. This is the same thing I mentioned before. You're not replacing, you're not adding to the deck. You're thinning it, and you're not removing other basic hunt event cards from white boxes. It's the same thing we talked about with Arc Survivor hunts. It's going to be the same thing with scouts, and it's going to be the same here with encounters. Initiative cards, opportunity cards, counter cards, critical wound cards. The Encounter Showdown story event lists the monster's attributes and traits. Encounter setup diagrams and the outcomes of the encounter. So you have this reference card, then the encounter board, the life dice, there's 5 Bone Eaters. Here it shows, this is, you know, we saw this in the Kickstarter. This is no longer a thing, even. The BRI, I don't think that box is even a thing. But this was from Kickstarter. All the stuff was from Kickstarter. We've seen these before. Encounters we know pretty well about them, but or what the idea of them is. But now we just have the actual rules. When the Encounter Monster Introduction Story event is triggered, an Encounter Hunt event card is introduced into the basic hunt event deck. From this moment, the threat of an encounter looms over every hunt. Missing Statue replaces a basic hunt event with Hunt Event Bone Eaters Encounter Level 1 in the basic hunt event deck. When the Encounter Hunt event is revealed, if the current Lantern Year is the same or later than the Lantern Year on the card, that's good. As we talked about in the hype video, there's windows of when these things are going to be available, so that was true. The Encounter Monster challenges the survivors and the Encounter Showdown begins. If the Lantern Year on the card is in the settlement's future, the monsters are disinterested. Roll a random hunt event instead. Encounter Showdown takes place on the claustrophobic dark the hunt, somewhere between the settlement and the survivor's quarry. Encounter board setup, so just put up the board, set up encounter cards, all these things. The encounter are showdowns and have the same round structure. These rules in this section highlight the differences between encounters and showdowns. If questions arise, consult the showdown phase section in the core game rulebook. At the beginning of an encounter, survivors gain arrival and start of showdown bonuses. Effects that directly refer to the showdown, such as during the showdown effects, are usable during an encounter. All showdowns are unique conflicts, so once per showdown effects may be used again during the showdown with the survivor's quarry. So, there you go. Very useful information. Monster's turn. All encounter monsters act on the monster's turn. At the start of the monster's turn, the monster controller shuffles the initiative cards. Initiative cards. The order in which encounter monsters act is determined by initiative cards. The monster controller draws the top initiative card, activating the monster shown. This monster performs its basic action. Do this until all monsters have been activated and their turns resolved. Encounter monster basic action. Counter monsters perform their basic action one at a time. As they do, they are always searching for an opportunity to get the upper hand. The monster's basic action describes when such an opening occurs. These opportunities are part of the basic action. They describe what the monster will draw when the monster will draw an opportunity card. For example, Bone Eaters draw an opportunity card when they roll any perfect hits. Opportunity cards. When the monster draws an opportunity card, perform it as you would any other card. These are always performed during the currently acting monster and use the target of the basic action unless otherwise stated. When an opportunity card is resolved, place it in the discard pile. Opportunity card moods. Some opportunity cards are monster moods. These follow the same rules as Showdown monster moods. Place them in play and apply their persistent rules for as long as the card remains in play. Opportunity moods affect all monsters unless otherwise stated, meaning there could be a specific type of encounter monster that you need to keep track of. Maybe moods would only apply to that specific type of encounter monster. Each encounter monster are individual monsters. Each encounter monster is its own entity. When rules state that a monster gains an attribute token, only that monster gains the token. Counter monsters do not share fields of view or adjacency. Movement and collision, again, still the same. Counter monster knockback. Counter monsters cannot voluntarily move through spaces occupied by survivors, impassable terrain, or other monsters. If an encounter monster would occupy a space containing impassable terrain or other monster, place it in the nearest unoccupied space. Instead, Counter monster knockback. When an encounter monster suffers knockback, move it in the indicated direction of spaces away from the source of the knockback. The monster would move into impassable terrain or other monster. Stop its movement in the last unoccupied space before that object is reached. Archive destructible terrain. Knockback can move an encounter monster through a survivor. When it does, the survivor suffers collision at the end of the monster's movement. If the monster ends its knockback on a space occupied by a survivor, the survivor suffers collision and knockback 5. Again, these are all just like basic rules from the normal Showdown. Survivor turn. Survivors can perform the same action encounter monsters do not have hit locations deck, but they still suffer critical wounds. They have a critical wound deck. Attacking encounter monsters. Survivors make attack rolls and determine their number of hits as normal. Instead of drawing hit location cards for each hit, survivors make a wound attempt roll for each hit, one at a time. On a successful wound attack, the encounter monster suffers a wound. That's what these dice are shown at the base. When a survivor attacks while multiple encounter monsters are in range, they must choose which encounter monster they are attacking. If an encounter monster moves out of range or dies mid-attack, cancel all remaining hits. So what this means is, say you're adjacent to 2 encounter monsters. You roll to hit as normal, and then you choose, when you roll the wound, you choose which one's getting wounded. If one dies, and you still have 3 wounds dice, we'll say 2 dice left in your pool to roll for, 2 unaccounted for hits, and you kill one of the monsters, that will end your entire attack. So you want to make sure if you're standing next to 2, one has 1 hit and the one has 1 HP, and the other one has like 4 HP left. Attack the one that has 4 HP first, and do your wound attempts there to try to get the most out of them. Right? Maybe you have 4 wound attempts, and the one encounter monster has 1 left, the other one has 2 left. Bring the one from 2 down to 1. And then just kill one, and then your attack's going to end. The other one's going to survive, even though you would have 4 wounds to assign. So, that's how that works. Check for critical wounds. Lantern 10s, luck, and other applicable rules may cause critical wounds as normal. When the monster suffers a critical wound, draw and resolve a critical wound card. If a survivor kills a monster with a critical wound, they still draw and resolve a critical wound card. After resolving it, place the critical wound in the discard pile. Wounding encounter monsters. When an encounter monster suffers a wound, reduce the monster's life by 1. Track this using the little life die in the model's base. If the monster's life reaches 0, it dies. Remove its miniatures from the encounter board and archive its initiative card. So you gotta remember to archive its initiative card. Counter conditions and counter cards. Encounter monsters may counter the survivor's desperate assault. The counter conditions listed on the encounter monster reference card describe the moment this occurs. When the counter condition occurs, the monster's controller draws a counter card and resolves it. After a counter card is resolved, place it in the discard pile. So these counter cards, again, better if I had an actual thing to show you, but remember, there's going to be conditions given on that on the status card of the encounter monsters. Survival opportunities. Survivors all have the survival opportunities of the monster during, like you would have a monster showdown, a survivor's turn, during flows, after critical wounds, when the monster is knocked down. The one exception is survival opportunities during reactions. Without a hit location deck, these opportunities do not arise. Right? So they're, when they say flows and stuff, that's AI cards. You're sure going to have those. Well, they're not actually the AI cards. They're the, they're basic action. And then maybe there are other cards that trigger a perfect hit. But either way, flows are still going to be there. But without hit location cards, you're not going to get the between hit location resolution ones. When an encounter monster draws an opportunity or counter card, there are no survival opportunities unless a flow is present. That's what I just said. The flows are going to be on those. End of the encounter. At the end of the encounter, the survivors are either defeated or have reached a crossroads. Since the end of the encounter is not at the end of the journey, meaning the hunt, there is no aftermath step. If the hunting party has perished, they suffer defeat. Resolve the rules and defeat and get victory. Once they have, when survivors are victorious, they gain the listed benefits of victory and rewards. Once they have determined the rewards, they deliberate their next steps. Survivors retain all tokens and damage accrued during the encounter. Instead of applying any aftermath rules, they must make a choice. Resume the hunt. The survivors press on in the darkness, resuming the hunt on the hunt board as though they had just resolved a long hunt event. Return home. Sentiment suffers. Place the survivors at starvation. Hunt ends in a failure, and you resolve starvation. Lower expectations. The survivors can elect to hunt a lower level quarry. Do not adjust the survivors or monster's position on the hunt board. When the showdown begins, survivors fight a monster one level lower than that of their original quarry. You cannot lower a monster's level to less than 1. If an effect like Exhausted Lantern Horde compels the survivors to hunt level 3 monsters, they cannot choose to fight a monster below level 3. Very important rule there. That's for people in Lantern when you include it. You cannot go below level 3, even when you have the encounters. Encounters intensify. Once the encounter monster is defeated, remove the corresponding encounter hunt card from the basic hunt event deck. If possible, the threat intensifies. Add the next higher level encounter hunt card to the deck. If none exist, the threat disappears back into the darkness. So eventually you can remove all of these by defeating the highest level. And then you continue on the hunt. So that's encounters. Much better if I had examples and stuff, but that's how they work. That's the rules for them. They're very neat. Pattern cards. So here's the new pattern rules. This technically applies to even pattern cards we have now, but here we go. Patterns have a novel arrangement of resources that allows settlements to craft gear not found in settlement locations. When a monster of inspiration strikes, or when a moment of inspiration strikes, survivors gain a pattern card. Add patterns to the campaign. Patterns can appear in any campaign. Their inclusion is based on the components that make up your campaign. Patterns are not optional. Pattern cards show the settlement how to build specific pattern gear. You have the name of the pattern card, crafting limit, resource total, or resource cost. Getting survivors find inspiration everywhere, from an introspective moment to the sight of an overgrown monster organ. The game will instruct you to gain a pattern. In the Gambler's Chest expansions, patterns are gained by defeating high-level quarry monsters and exploring Arch Survivors' philosophies. They're gained other ways as well. The Gambler's Chest expansion quarry monsters have indomitable resources in addition to the monster resources. These are rewarded to survivors who defeat level 3 plus monsters. These monster parts are such outstanding specimens, they often inspire patterns. Add patterns to the settlement. When you gain a pattern, take the corresponding pattern card from the pattern cards in your collection and move it to the settlement's pattern. These are all normal. These are what we normally do even with Insight. During this settlement setup, place all settlement patterns on the table. Crafting pattern gear. During the development step of the settlement phase, you can craft any pattern gear as you would gear to settlement location. Ensure you have the necessary resources on the pattern card, spend and archive the resources, and gain the corresponding pattern gear. These are all just like the insight patterns that we currently have. These rules are not changing too much. There are changes, though. Seed patterns are an optional component you can add to your campaign. Seed patterns come from an enigmatic font of ideas that continues to inspire new gear schematics. Seed pattern rules described here are intended for play with seed pattern cards in the Gambler's Chest expansion. Negative seed patterns, those are the promo ones. We don't need to talk about those. Adding seed patterns. To add seed patterns to your campaign, you will need to add the first survivor to reach level 3 or reach 3+ understanding settlement milestone of the settlement record sheet. The milestone triggers designs and dandelions. This is the same as Insight currently works. So it's just when you reach your 3 understanding milestone. It means it also works with Awake and whatever from Stars and Sun. You can do it in everything. People Dreamkeeper uses seed patterns. The seed pattern settlement milestone is already printed on the timeline for the Dreamkeeper campaign. Seed patterns. These are the ones that look like Insight, the ones we currently have. They have a different back, though, so it's going to be weird to include your other patterns. I guess it doesn't really matter because it doesn't... I guess you kind of do gain them at random, but sucks. Maybe draw from the top with the first one face down or something. That's the only way you could probably do this without sleeving them with opaque on the back. So, these are all the same as Insight. The only thing here that changes is era. So eras are noted in Roman numerals 1 through 4, corresponding to monster nodes. So this is what the eras correspond. They used to be called arc, but now they're era. They correspond to monster nodes. So, for example, craft this gear with resources from the monster in this or a later era. Meaning that if you have something that's like a basic... I'll just read the page where it says it. Crafting seed pattern, examine. These are, again, most of these are going to be exactly like the patterns we already have. These are just much better rules for them. Survivors gain seed pattern, draw a random card from the settlement seed pattern deck, then add it to their earned settlement seed pattern cards. Again, these are all like Insight ones currently. The drafting table innovation, this is new. The drafting table innovation alters the revelatory moment survivors experience when they reach 3+ understanding. Enhanced by the presence of the drafting table in the settlement, survivors are suddenly struck by transcendent inspiration. Survivors may reach 3+ understanding at many moments in a later year. When they do resolve any story events, such as Insight, they gain the benefits of drawing table, draw a seed and pattern card. Even if they are away, the sheer magnitude of this earth-shaking revelation ripples instantly through the settlement. It means if you gain it on a hunt, you're going to resolve this even in the settlement. Add the seed pattern card to the settlement seed list when it is gained. Crafting speed, spend the cost. The components listed as part of the seed pattern's cost must be archived in the process of crafting that seed. Unlike most gear, the cost of seed pattern is not limited to just resources. Specific era costs. Here's what I wanted to talk about. This is a change even for Insight cards. Insight pattern cards and stuff. For example, the cost includes resource types instead of named resource card. These resources must come from monster, not basic. They must be a monster, must come from a monster, so not basic resources. And that monster must appear in the era of that seed pattern or later. So, for example, Idosmith's Lens is Era 2. Costs 1 Broken Lantern and 1 Organ. Settlement spends a Broken Lantern basic resources and a resource with the Organ type from their Node 2 Quarry Monster, which would be Screaming Antelope, Spedicles, Flower Knight, Smog Singers. So when something says one-time Organ, you would need to look at the era of the pattern. You can't just spend a random, just basic organ. You need to have a monster resource that is an organ that is from a specific node. That's quite the change to the way patterns work now. It's a big one. And then gain seed pattern cards. All these are exactly the same. So now we can go to Scouts. In past campaigns, the gruesome machinations of the world worked in the survivors' favor. Even if the hunting survivors were lost, their gear was inexorably returned to the settlement, carried by strange creatures that herald the survivors' demise. Scout is an optional component that may be added to any campaign. Playing with scouts expands the simulation of survivors, leaving the settlement without security of their gear automatically returning. If a scout is not present when the hunting survivors perish, all survivors' gear and resources are lost. So scouts are a must, and they definitely not the system. Scouts are a must on your hunt if you don't want to lose gear. The system is you don't have to add it if you don't want to, but it's in the Dreamkeeper campaign, so it's in the Games Chest one. To add scouts to a campaign, add the exhausted guidepost to Lantern Year 1 of the timeline on your settlement record sheet. Replace the pictograph innovation with the new pictographs. Do not add the lamplighter to the settlement event deck until explicitly instructed. That's something else that's in the rules. Is there's a new hand sign, a hand stop sign, a red stop sign on some settlement events. When you start your campaign, you look through your settlement deck. If anything has that red hand on it, you don't include it in the deck to start with. So the settlement deck, there's now with that icon, there's new ways of making sure that you can add things later or not. Things aren't added from the start. Scout introduced significant changes to your settlement and gameplay is not recommended as a mid-campaign addition. People the Dreamkeeper uses scouts. That's just that. Scout components. The Death Pact innovation represents this promise. When the survivors are defeated or lost on the hunt, perform Logistics of Death, which describes what happens to the scout and the settlement's belongings. The new pictograph. The settlement can special innovate pictograph after they gain the Death Pact innovation. Using the symbology of their own making, the scout deepens the settlement's understanding of the most powerful foes. This is how you get the scout reports and stuff. Scout hunt events. This is the same thing we talked about. You're just replacing one of the basic ones with the hand that's holding 2 dice. Replacing one of those and adding scout hunt events. They have their own table. I should have mentioned Art Hunt Events survivors also have their own hunt table. It's only 10 events for each one. Outskirts settlement location. A darkened lantern halberd juts from the ground at the settlement's edge. In its gloomy shadow, the scout makes their preparations at the outskirts of the settlement. The outskirts settlement location is gained during exhausted guideposts. At the outskirts, the settlement can craft scout gear that can be carried only in the scout's gear grid. So scouts are not limited to only scout gear. They can use anything. They're basically a 5th survivor with only 4 slots instead of 6 or 9 on their gear grid. They're 4 instead of 9. And they're the only ones who can use scout gear, in addition to other gear. So, the awesome world, which I always hope was a thing, which is why I said Skrell is one of the best miniatures. Skrell still is one of the best white boxes. Skrell is amazing. She definitely doubles as a scout now, because for sure what you're probably going to be doing is giving your scout things like your scavenger kit, just to get them off your survivors, right? You're going to give them the scavenger kit. You might give them the Vespertine cello and stuff like that. They're the best ones to hold all this stuff. So pickaxes, herb gathering, bug traps, all those things you're going to give to your scout, which is awesome. So at the outskirts, settlement can craft scout gear that can only be given to scouts. Settlement can also endeavor to collect Hollowstone strange resources. Scout gear grid. Scout carries a dreaded stinking role so repulsive that the teeming darkness avoids it. When the scout finds themselves alone, they may use it to travel in questionable safety. The scout uses a corresponding gear grid with only 4 free spaces. The remaining spaces occupied by the burdensome dreaded pack. So remember, you are wearing this, and those keywords would count as you wearing it because the dreaded pack is your gear grid. Scout keyword and gear. The Scout's gear grid is the only gear grid that may hold gear with the Scout keyword. Scout gear grid may include any gear that is not cursed, because the Dread Pack cannot abide by a cursed presence. Scout gains cursed gear during the hunt or showdown. They may never depart as a Scout. So, that's interesting. So the Scouts can't be cursed. Likely, probably because, Kingsmen. You don't want to have to use those Kingsmen people and have to actually use that regal gear stuff. So you just can't be cursed. It's also interesting because it doesn't say if the scout gains cursed gear on the hunt or showdown, they may never depart again as a scout. It doesn't mean that it's instantly lost, which is important to note. It's an important rule to know that if, for some reason a scout were to gain cursed gear, they could gain it. They just won't be able to depart again as a scout. So, good to know. When survivors depart, they may nominate a survivor to wear the dreaded pack. This survivor is the scout for that lantern year. The scout departs alongside up to 4 hunting survivors and gains all departing survivor bonuses. They are a departing survivor. They gain just treat them as such. This often means that 5 survivors depart rather than 4. If the scout survives to return to the settlement, they contribute endeavors as normal, even if they're the only one alive. So basically, Gambler's Chest might be considered harder because we're getting a 5th survivor, basically. That's just not the best version. But in the early game, still pretty good. 5th survivor. Scout is part of the hunting party. They participate in and reveal hunt events just like other survivors. When an event affects all survivors, it affects the scouts as well. The hunt event revealer takes charge of the scout. Showdowns with the scout. Scout is a survivor and participates in the showdown and encounters just like everyone else. They gain arrival bonuses. They gain movement and activation on their act and participate in the aftermath. Again, I just mentioned all this stuff. Let's... Stoneface Cloak is a scout gear that allows the scout to hide. Scout's model is represented by the Hidden Face terrain tile, which represents its camouflage form. Its model waits on the corresponding terrain card. While off the showdown board, scouts cannot be targeted by monsters or suffer effects that the monster performs on all survivors. The terrain card shows how to return to the board. So this is like imprisonment, pretty much, from Slenderman. So if another game rule prevents the scout from placing the Hidden Face terrain tile, they cannot hide. So if there's ever something that prevents terrain from being placed or something. If all survivors perish, Scout has a choice. Continue to fight or end the showdown in defeat and trigger Logistics of Death. Logistics of Death. If the hunting survivors perish during the hunt or are defeated in the showdown, the settlement's death pack triggers Logistics of Death. Before resolving Logistics of Death, resolve any hunt event outcomes and showdown defeat conditions. Logistics of Death describes the morbid procedure the scout endures to return the settlement's belongings. There are different procedures if the survivors perished chasing a quarry than if facing a nemesis. Recovery team describes the outcomes of a defeat after a nemesis showdown at the settlement's edge. By keenly observing the carnage, the scout may mitigate the devastation left by a rampaging nemesis. Long Journey Home describes what happens when the survivors perish on the hunt or in a showdown with a quarry monster, depending on whether the scout survives. If the scout dies along with the hunting survivors, the settlement's prospects are dire. Everything is lost to the darkness. So if the scouts die, if you get a full TPK, everything's lost, all your gear and everything. If the scout dies during the hunt or showdown, but the showdown ends in victory, the dreaded pack and the scout's gear are carried home by the remaining victorious survivors. So what this means is if the scout dies but you win, the 4 survivors carry back the scout's gear, right? But if the scout dies, another survivor dies, and 3 survivors remain, I think it means that the 4th survivor's gear is lost, but the scout gear is recovered. I think that's what that means. It's hard to read it exactly without looking at all the gear and other things, but if the scout dies during the hunter showdown, but the showdown ends in victory, the dreaded pack and the scout's gear are carried home by the remaining survivors. So if there is no scout and someone died, so the scout died, 1 person died, and you win with 3, the 4th person's stuff is lost, but the scout's gear isn't. It's a weird thing. I have to confirm for sure, but that's how I'm reading that. The dreaded pack is lost. Scout and their gear are lost to darkness during Logistics of Death. The settlement is in peril. Without the dreaded pack, the settlement cannot nominate a scout, recover the hunting party's belongings, or gain any other scout benefits. A rare confluence of fortune may add another dreaded pack to the settlement, but it's unlikely. So, scout discoveries. These things are amazing. I'd show them off when we unbox. We'll talk about all the scout discoveries and their tablets and stuff. But each scout discovery enables the scout to create a corresponding monster tablet gear. Scouts commit their in-depth insights in scout shorthand onto wearing our onto slabs. Then the scout uses them to coach the hunting survivors. Each tablet describes a useful maneuver that works only against the tablet's representative monster. The scout must be alive and carrying the tablet corresponding to the quarry at hand to use its effects. So we'll talk about this when we unbox everything. Finally, we come to Watchers, the last system added by Gambler's Chest, or Wanderers, I mean. So Wanderers are one that I was least hyped on, Wanderers, because they finished so long ago, like 4 or 5 years ago, and I was just like, oh, maybe they're not taking advantage of all this dev time for Wanderers. Maybe they consider the system finished, and we get what it is. We get just luck, and that's it. So the fact we get just luck is still true, but I think I was probably wrong on Wanderers. Wanderers seem like they definitely evolved past what we were originally pitched on and how they work, but they seem amazing and awesome. So just as hoped, these Wanderers seem awesome. Wanderers are strangers who emerge from the darkness to call your settlement home. During their stay, they will share their story with the settlement. A Wanderer brings the artifacts of their previous life, new gear, disorders, fighting arts, and more. While they live in your settlement, they can use these to hunt and fight alongside the survivors. Campaigns can only have one Wanderer. Even after they leave the settlement or die, another will not appear. Again, that's just the rules as written, but you might do it otherwise. Adding Wanderers to campaign. Each Wanderer has an accompanying book with rules, an introduction, and further content that tells their stories throughout their stay. Wanderers will join a campaign through an introduction story. The Wanderer's rules specify when to add the introduction to your settlement's timeline. Rules. When a Wanderer joins the settlement, create a new survivor record sheet for them and increase your settlement's population, using the starting attributes and details listed in the Wanderer's rulebook. Disposition. This is amazing. This is something we never even heard about, and this is actually amazing. So disposition is a Wanderer trait that represents their feelings towards their adopted settlement. It can increase or decrease during the campaign and can be negative. Keep track of a Wanderer's disposition on the survivor record sheet. A Wanderer's disposition towards the settlement greatly influences the results of their story. Outsider. Wanderers arrive with their own life experiences. They do not gain the benefits of being born in your settlement. So that they do not gain that stuff. In all other ways, while living in your settlement, they are like any other survivor. They can depart, gaining departing survivor effects, gain hunt XP, contribute and use endeavors, be nominated for story events, adhere to settlement survival limit, etc. That means being a scout. It doesn't say they can't be a scout. That is something may want to really consider with good old luck here. Maybe he should be a good scout. Just saying. Wandering Ark survivors, or Wanderers can be Ark survivors who join the campaigns of other survivors. Rules are indicated for a Wanderer's life and development in different types of settlements. If a Wanderer is an Ark survivor, they will have an accompany philosophy unique to their outlook, as well as hunt XP milestones that indicate when they ponder their philosophy, increasing its rank. If wandering Ark survivors join an Ark survivor settlement, their knowledges are added to the settlement's knowledge deck as the Wanderers gain them. Ark survivors living outside Ark settlements will not gain the benefits of living with a forum or other Ark survivors. Instead, they will gain knowledge only through the course of their own philosophy. So, there's Wanderers. Amazing. Basically, that's all these systems, actually. That's it. That's the rules for these systems. Again, I'm not going over any other rules. I'm not going to show anything else that's been revealed from spoilers. These are just the pages that were shared within the community that came along that I noticed that, a lot of people may not have seen the actual rules being shared and stuff. And again, I don't want to go into all the rules. I'm not going to go into anything else about that was shared or any other story pages. I'm not going to do any gear now or anything like that. You can join me on a live stream. It will be a very long live stream. We can all talk about it and have fun with the Gambler's Chest when eventually I do get it. If I even get it in the timely manner, who knows? I still haven't gotten my label yet. So anyway, that's just the rules. That's the overview of all the systems. That's how everything works. Hopefully this gives you more insight into what you're actually looking at when you see spoilered pictures and stuff. Again, this is all spoilers, but Now you know, maybe now you know how it at least works a little bit better. Again, I'm not going to go over the glossary terms and all those other things, but these are just the systems. Gambler's Chest seems absolutely amazing, well worth the wait. So I look forward to seeing you in either the live stream or the video, because I have also another video that's coming out for regular Rules of Kingdom Death. So that one I'm still editing, but I just wanted to do this in the meantime. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.